Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Um, those of you who don't know me, my name is Avantika, and I'm here to tell my story and share my story in case it inspires someone. And and I want to share how I went on a journey in becoming an astronaut. I'm not an astronaut. But I did go through this journey to pursue that dream. I am right now 30 years old, and I would call myself an aspiring astronaut because I took so many steps and decisions towards becoming this person. And I want to share with you what it has taught me, the lessons I've learned, and what a beautiful life thus far has been since I made that decision. Um, I would like to say it's not that I think that I'm gonna be, or that I even necessarily want to be an astronaut, but the path that leads up to it is the path I have chosen to follow. And I'm committed to it for the rest of my life and wherever it takes me. And yeah, so let's begin. So so many children grow up wanting to be an astronaut when they are like 7, 8 years old. You know, there are space camps and all these things. It's such an inspiring way to really have this in your life, this kind of a story which really helps you like make your decisions in the future. And it's like this inspiration, and it's such a childhood dream, but of course only a few actually make it. And I hope this video helps you if you are wanting that dream to become a reality. I hope this video helps you in gaining those tips and what steps I took when I applied for the European Space Agency astronaut applications in 2021. So when I was 8 years old, I knew instantly that this is what I wanted. I don't know exactly what the pivot was, but I do remember because I was born in India, and I remember watching this on the news about Kalpana Chawla. For some of you who don't know, she was an astronaut from India, from the region where I'm from, in Punjab, and so she was like from northern India too, and she had really pursued it to very extreme level and had actually gone to the US, changed her citizenship, become a US citizen, and she went into space too, on Challenger, I believe, in 2003, which unfortunately did crash, and she did not make it alive. But what a journey, and what a role model for all of us. I just remember at the age of 8 or 9, I think I was 8, 9, 10, one of those ages. I remember very distinctly like this being on news, watching news, documentaries about her, following this on the news, and I instantly knew this is what I wanted to be, or at least like I didn't know it then, but I just knew that this is the path I want to follow. This is my role model, and this is what I want to pursue in my life. So I followed that path. I went into engineering based on that. I attended a lot of like space camps, and I went to like, I always used to talk about it. It was always just very fulfilling. I was a big daydreamer. I had a telescope in my room, which I used to look from and look at like star constellations. I was part of like the astronomy society. Honestly, I was completely a science nerd in a way, and but it was what I wanted, and I stuck with it. Like, you know, I sometimes people thought I was a bit weird, but you know, so be it. It was a path that I decided to follow, and I was 12 years old. Then we had moved to England, my family and I, and it was I mean, it was a complete different world coming to England from India. Not just the language, but like having an accent. So I was always an outsider. I did always feel like an outsider, and to me, it felt sometimes even otherworldly. It felt very different. And my experience was just really like um, everything felt so like new and like ways of being, and I tried to fit in, and I knew very much I didn't. Not just because of my cultural things, but also because of the certain dreams that I had and the fact that I was actually following them, like I was actually pursuing them. Being the eldest daughter in my family, in a family of four kids, I had heavy responsibilities from a very young age. And from immigrant families, you know that how hard it is to go into another country. And my dad was working a lot in order to provide um, for all of us, and my mom was taking care of like all four of us at times, and it was not easy. And sometimes I had to step in into those parental duties too. And that's what I had. That's the life I was leading, and it was hard at times, but I still had that. So fast forward, I studied engineering, mechanical engineering. I went to a space camp at the age of 17 or 18. I can't remember. I think it was 17. I went to space camp run by NASA Astronaut at Imperial College London, which is also where I studied my master's, and I did my bachelor's at Warwick, but that's where I went. And I went to, yeah, I studied, no, I did the space camp there. And this space camp was made of like 100 people, and there were NASA astronauts there. They were like kind of giving talks and the space advancement, what is happening in the space sector, what is being built. And it was just incredible in building dreams, dreaming bigger and bigger to achieve what you want. Truly, it was, if you are young and maybe like a very or if you know anyone who's very young around you, this being teenagers to like age of like 18, 19, 20 even, encourage them to go to space camps. This can really help them make a decision as well, because that's when I decided I wanted to study engineering, and that's what I wanted to go into. And I applied for engineering schools, and yeah, that's what I did. Fast forward, bachelor's done, master's done. I worked for a company where we were building drones, and we were testing them in airfield, and it was so I was based in the UK, and that's where I was working there for 1 year. Then I worked for another startup which was in manufacturing. So all of them were, my role was always research engineer, and research engineer. And I also I had two masters, because I did a MEng. Those of you who are in the UK, you'll know I did the Masters of Engineering, and then I did a Masters of Science in at Imperial College in composite materials. Do I recommend doing two masters? Obviously not. The reason why I did it is actually, to be honest, it wasn't a well-planned decision. It's just I made a bit of a career shift, and to be honest, it mattered to me to go to quite prestigious universities at the time, because I was very much focused on like this showing our worth in our society, which in Indian culture is, and other cultures too, but in Indian cultures especially, is so based on like your worth is sometimes so based on like where you go, who, like what you become, and what kind of person you are. And it's such an awful thing, because right now I live in Berlin, and it's like complete opposite. Like I can be whoever I want here. I'm not restricted to a certain personality, whereas I felt like my upbringing kind of restricts me to be a certain personality there. Anyways, moving forward, so finishing my work life and stuff, fast forwarding to 2020, I was working for a startup company in England in manufacturing. COVID hits. Now, COVID hits around March 2020, I believe. And what happened then was, so I was in a relationship which ended. On the same day, I also not completely lost my job, but basically there was a lot of uncertainty regarding job. that happened on the same day. And both of those things, my mental, like, I had no mental capacity to deal with both of those things really strongly. But I just remember feeling like it's time to surrender. Like my body just knew that it was time to surrender, because these are things that were out of my control. And when this happened on that day, a week later it was national, then international lockdown. And since then, I can only describe this as like a very interesting journey, because I was healing from a breakup as well as trying to decide what to do in my career, and why, what can I do next, if I'm going to lose this job, then what can I be working on next? Then so all of those uncertainties combined together, I had no idea. But I remember feeling like, if I can choose right now to do what I want to do, what would I just do? I started connecting. This is when I started connecting back to my North Star, which was to be an astronaut. I just started connecting to my childhood dream, who I wanted to be. And because I had time, finally, space from the hustle culture and like this go energy, to stop from it and step away from it, and to finally look at what am I truly wanting. I would go for like lots of nature walks. I would just take care of my body. I would meditate. I would do handstands. I would do yoga. I was doing running. I was luckily we had a big garden, and I know that's a privilege. That's a massive privilege, and I did that. And I read books, and I really nourished myself until I started like really becoming interested in like space sciences, the development in space that was happening, and where is that taking us? And then I started reading about biographies, and I was completely just naturally letting my body lead me. And I've always had a passion for languages. I don't know why it is, but I have always had it. And so I started learning Russian. And the choice to learn Russian was based on, it would be so cool if one day, if I ever got to go to space, it would just be really cool. And never thinking, like, it was just like almost like a play in my mind, but it was just so fun. I just really enjoyed it, and my lessons were so enjoyable. Like with my teacher Ollie, who like was similar age to me, and we would both like just talk about like random stuff, and I just enjoyed it so much. I learned singing in Russian, which is not very common, but it was such a nice method to learn it, to learn a language, and I was enjoying it so much. I was like, okay, now that I'm liking this, what more can I add to it? So I was reading during the day, I was attending online talks, I was taking care of my body, and everything, like my health was in great shape at the time, was really top, which is also something you need to be very healthy in order to be an astronaut, because you're effectively a test subject who is being tested for their blood levels in space, and like for any research, you are this test subject. That's the whole idea of it. And that's what I was looking at. And I was looking at other people who were also pursuing this dream. I was attending talks online. Life was beautiful. Life was truly, really beautiful in allowing me to like basically live my dream, whether it becomes a reality or not. I was like, the whole world is on a lockdown. Who knows what is going to happen? And in some ways, even like no one had any certainty. So might as well dream like this, And I realize my privilege. Don't get me wrong. I do realize my privilege, that I had a house. I didn't have to worry about money at the time because I was living with my parents. I was privileged. I acknowledge that completely. I acknowledge also that despite, my job not coming in, I was on the furlough scheme, which meant the money was still coming in from the government. So I was in a privileged position. Don't get me wrong, I understand that. next thing, what I did, then I started looking at what are the physical tests that I need to um, work on. And physical tests and also psychometric tests, psychological tests, what do they involve? I started training for them. You can't necessarily train for psychological tests, I don't think, because there are games that you can play to like really get good at, but actually those games don't necessarily work. They only make you good at that game. There have been quite a lot of studies on it, and actually, yeah, I'm not 100% sure how to improve that skill because I haven't looked at it in a long time, but I was looking at psychometric tests like logic numbers, and I bought Tim Peake's biography, and also he mentions all like certain logic games and like psychometric tests that you can go through. I bought some other ones as well. I read Samantha Caristofority's biography, Chris Hadfield's biography. I also read that, Tim Peake's biography. What else did I read? I also read a few others. Plenty. If you're interested, I will link them all down below. I also attended every week by Dallas Campbell. He was running a space update each week on Zoom, and you could join, and there were quite a lot of like people who took like the guest speakers that would come onto it. That was incredible. I was fully immersed, fully committed, and it was around 2020. This was June, July, August, and I believe it was August or September time is when there was a big announcement made that first time in like 10 to 15 years, I can't remember, I think it was 10 years, first time in 10 years, they have opened up applications for the European Space Agency for astronaut candidates. This is like, this is incredible. Like, it rarely happens, especially for the European Space Agency. And I'm from England, so yeah, that's something that played a role. 10 positions available, and I looked at all the like, okay, what are they looking like? Not looking for what the criteria is, and what is it? Do I even go for it? I mean, it's so far fetched, like But I felt like I had to do justice to my younger self. Like, that's what I grew up with, that dream. Then, like, to not go for it, even if I'm not gonna get it, still seems like such a shame of a life experience. Like the fact that I had dreamt of it quite strongly and had committed to that path. And if I didn't apply, it meant I was doing disservice to my younger self. And I was not going to do that. And I was not going to do that to my younger self. And I realized that is also a privilege that I felt that way. And I don't know how I had this mindset, but I had this mindset of I'm not going to let my younger self down. And I think that mindset has served me, even now serves me so well in certain situations where I don't put myself in those situations, because I protect my inner child. I protect my younger self, because that younger self is innocent, full of dreams, really with such a beautiful mind, with such curiosity about this world and space and the universe. And I would do whatever it takes to protect that person. My younger self, my inner child, anything. I would do anything. That's exactly what I did. And that mindset has really, really carried me in every decision that I have made. Right, so then, the applications open up. There's a whole list of what each stage of the selection process is like. I look at each stage, and there's psychometric, psychological, first initial one. I also looked at this series called Do You Have What It Takes? It was a BBC series that came out, I believe, in 2018. I don't know if it's available anymore. Brilliant series. Chris Hadfield was one of the panelists, and also one of the space doctors. I regret that I don't remember her name. Incredible panelists who were in charge of the selection criteria, and it was based in the UK, and they had certain candidates. And I remember Jackie Dr. Jackie Bell being on there too, because she went to Imperial. So in my mind, she was also like this role model in a way. And so I was looking at I was looking at that too, like what are these people doing? And I was looking at, okay, what patterns have they got? Well, one of them had, a large amount of flying experience. So I believe her name is Tess. Tess on I only know the Instagram name, which is Tess the Pilot. I can link it down below if you're interested. I followed her, and after I watched that program, and Dr. Jackie Bell and some of the other candidates too, Susie Imber, who I think won the entire like thing, the show, and what she was doing, and her like experience in mountaineering, so in depth and so beautiful, like the life experience that she has led, and all these people really pursuing their dreams, and it was just incredible to watch. And this inspired me. Okay, what are they doing? Let's have a look. Okay, mountaineering, where can I go? So I went to like places in the UK, like Snowdonia in Wales. I was like trying to like use navigation skills. Okay, we can go there. And I know it doesn't sound like much. It's really not much. Like, it's not a higher level. Like, it's not like I went on the Everest and climbed it and did that big thing. But even if you do that in small things, you have to start somewhere. Yeah, even if you start in like the small things, then you build onto the bigger things. And that's what I did. And I was committed to this path, like I said. So I did those things, and what else did I do? I started up taking flying lessons. I started working on my private pilot's license, which is still yet to be finished, which I'll get onto why I haven't yet. I did my CAA authority test, which is like to check your health, aviation health check, I think it's called. I did that one, and you have to submit it for the astronaut application. I did that. What else? What else did I do? There were a couple of other things. Definitely with the with the flying lessons, that was a big a really like amazing thing that I took on in my life. What else? As I was saying, I learned Russian. I also had this urge, and I still don't know why that was. I also had this urge to learn German. I had basic level German, but yes, because one of the criteria on the application was that you have to have an intermediate level of another language, and I do have Hindi and Punjabi. Unfortunately, those weren't really counted in the application form, so or at least Punjabi definitely wasn't. But you do have to be able to speak multiple languages, and so then I thought, okay, well, let's have a look at something else. That's when I started looking at German level, a higher level. I wanted to get to B2 at least, and then I could say, okay, that's what I want to do. And that's why I took it on, because German, in Russian, I was still like A1, so it wouldn't have got to that point. So lots of things here. Now we get onto the fitness test. So I wanted to massively improve my fitness. So I had a personal trainer who I was working with on bleep test, trying to improve my points, reaction time, really like how far could I go into the bleep test, and we looked at my running technique. All of this, by the way, I know it sounds like a lot, but it was so much fun, and it never felt like work. It just felt like I had internal motivation. It just never felt like it's something I had to do. It felt like something that I wanted to do no matter what. And I am so glad that I had that feeling, that I got to experience this level of internal motivation to really put out what I want to be, who I want to be, even if the failure occurs. I was committed to it. And I think that sort of mindset has really served me in my entire life thus far. So, so then the applications come. I write an application. I fill out the application form. I write the cover letter, or at least the selection letter, I think it was called. I'm not sure. I write that. I am submitting all the documents that need to be submitted. By the way, people did think I was a bit crazy, like preparing for this, and I was just obsessed with it. In the evenings, I would just be doing like, my routine was 7 a.m. I would do German lesson, at least 3 days a week. It turned to 4. Evening, 7 p.m. I would do Russian lessons. In between, midday, I would do like fitness training, running in the park. What is that called? Reaction time testing. That's what I was doing. And during the day, I would work from home. Yeah, that's it. My workplace was not that far away. I was working from home. Late, early evenings, I would work on, either I would have like a talk that I would attend by a guest speaker, or something was always planned. Psychometric testing, I was practicing those, or psychological tests, practicing. All of this combined. I would say all of this really came from internally. It came after a period of basically losing my job and my relationship ending and my world basically changing completely. All of this like internal motivation came from a phase of like healing and giving myself this time to rest, which is massively important. And I live my life that way now, like giving myself that time and space to really allow the ideas to come. What is it that I'm really wanting to do? I do realize this is not possible for everyone. I completely realize that. And I'm working on finding methods a bit more that can be worked for everyone in a way, because I do realize my privilege, and I was living at home, so I didn't have to cook as much. My mom was helping me out with that. I was 27 at the time. So yeah, I was 27 at the time, and that, I was at home. My dad worked, and my mom was really like really helping us out with like food and everything, and I had those privileges and I needed those. I couldn't have done it without those things being available to me so nicely. So, and I wasn't worried about money. I wasn't worried about like like house being taken and stuff like that. So that I do have to say. And yeah, so then I had of course applied, and I waited for the answer, and I went with this mindset that this is, I'm not going to get it, because I knew people like Dr. Jackie Bell and other people that were clearly like in high positions had applied, and who have doctorates, who have all of these skills. I said, okay, well, I'm probably not going to get it, but thus far this has been a great journey. So far, I have learned so much about myself. I learned I am super resilient, really motivated, and this is what true internal motivation coming from a vision for life looks like. You don't need to get a motivational speaker to help you with that. This came from purely within. There was no it never felt like I was even working. It just felt like it was something I just wanted to do, and then I did it. And I just, yeah. So I had accepted that. But I realized, well, this takes a year or so to really like the whole process to go through, and selection process, and when it starts, you don't know. So what I decided was in that time, well, this may not happen this time, but I'm still going to go on the path. So I applied for a job in Moscow. By the way, this is before the war, in 2021. Yeah, 2021. I applied for a job, and this job came in the most serendipitous way. I could not have planned it. I had a contact who I had met at a networking event, who I contacted, and I asked him, do you know any Russian universities who are working on aluminium metal research? He sent me some contacts. He sent me 2 contacts from 2 different Russian universities. One was in, I feel like it was Bauman. I'm not 100% sure now. Bauman University, and the other one was in Samara in Russia. I didn't particularly want to be in Samara because I mean, I'm sure it's a beautiful place, but I just felt like the Russian level was just not good enough to be able to communicate with locals, and I would really struggle being alone in a foreign country where I don't know anyone. So that was a big step. So, but I still applied, and I didn't hear anything from either of those universities for 3 months. Then I get an email from the one from the Moscow University, but it's coming from, like, the email that I got was from a German, like it was point de, and I was like, okay, well, this is something different. And I checked, and the person who I had contacted said that they had moved from Russia to Germany, and now they worked in East Germany at a different university, but they do have a position available there if I chose to interview for that position. So I did, interviewed. In 2 days I got the job, and that also meant within 2 months I was going to move countries. So this is now in June 2021, August 2021. Oh no, maybe it was September. August 2021 is when I got my visa approved because Brexit. And June 2021 is when I moved to Germany, East Germany. Now it's been almost 3 years that I've been in this country. For 2 years, I got really good at my German level, a lot of like a Russian resident. So I was very excited that there were partnerships with certain Russian universities. And then I was planning actually to do my exchange there at some point. However, that didn't happen because the war came, and things changed a lot after that. And all those partnerships were sadly cut off. And so then I still carried on with my research, but I have to say that this move was not the easiest of moves because I was alone again in a foreign country, and that takes a lot of adjustment. But that time of isolation really allowed me to get to know myself on a very deep level, become so self-aware, like what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, where do I fall short in certain things, where do I excel in certain things, how can I show up in my world, in this world, in my most authentic way. I had coaches who were helping me a lot, and it's one of the key things you learn in life is to really do trauma healing and really get to know yourself as much as possible, because you're becoming lighter. I like to think of it as soul becoming lighter. And that's when I got into spirituality, and I learned about tarot cards, I learned about Reiki, I learned about energy healing. And I was living in two different worlds, which often are not talked about together, which is a deep spiritual way of being, as well as the scientific researcher that I was working as. So these these dualities, and a lot of people do believe in this sort of thing, but not a lot of people talk about it. But I'm talking about it now because last year I was working part-time as a scientific researcher and part-time as a Reiki healer and a tarot reader. And what a life path that I had. I could not have ever imagined it, ever predicted it. What a beautiful path though. I felt like this was just like my creativity was being expressed through tarot readings and like doing these YouTube videos, but also I enjoy science. I enjoy learning about research and really solving problems in that way. And I was good at it, but I was also good at listening to my intuition on a very deep level and being connected to the universe and being connected to nature. That was important to me, and that became important to me. And on the way, the people that I met who have been my biggest spiritual teachers, I can't even tell you how wonderful and amazing they have been. The people, the connections that I've had thus far in my time here in Germany. I now live in Berlin, before I was in a city called Cottbus. And in that time, the depth of experience that I've had, I don't think I could have ever had that if I had stayed in England and had stayed in one place. This is truly a unique path, and I encourage you more and more to take such paths, because this has changed my life. This really changed my life. Yeah, and I encourage you to do the same, because I feel so rich in my life experience, and I turned 30 literally last year, and I truly feel like until this point I have lived so many different lives, and I'm even more excited to see what the next chapters may be. But until this year, I have lived many different lives, many different ways of being. And the healing aspect that I had, and working as a Reiki healer and meeting people, listening to their stories. I also worked as a self-defense coach, by the way, so I was also practicing that, and I realized that one of my strengths was being able to manage multiple different things, very different things, really well, and retaining information was getting better and better. The more I was healing, the more I was addressing my past traumas on weekly basis. Actually, I really was like making space for like holding more information, holding more things in my life, so that I can concentrate on them rather than my blockages. And by blockages I mean, like, I used to have certain social anxiety and panic attacks, and now I don't. I actually enjoy public speaking, and that has come from exposure therapy, as well as really being very exposure therapy, but also like really, even this YouTube videos, I'm talking about my experience openly and sharing my experience with more people, and having coaches and healers also helping me. And it has truly taken a team to help me to get where I am right now, and at an accelerated rate, which I think is accelerated by the age of 30, having lived so many different lives, taking risks, big risks, standing up, having hard conversations. And this is exactly why I'm sharing my story, because when you reach out to the right people for help and you want to pursue your goals from your childhood, it's a life which is a rich life. Maybe not monetarily always, but it's a rich life in your experience, and I truly live that. And I live my life on my terms, and I feel empowered in saying that. And I hope that you all get to do that as well, because it's what a gift it is to live such an empowered life, such a beautiful life, where you can appreciate each experience that you've had, and even the really, really, really heartbreaking ones. So now what does it hold for me in the future? What do I do? So I will be moving back to England quite soon, and I'm in the steps of working out what I do now, but I am a coach now in STEM, specifically for women, where I help women in finding their confidence, and really becoming really empowered in places where they don't feel as empowered, perhaps in like perhaps even like more so in male dominated spaces, where gender pay gap still remains, where there are still certain stereotypes that really held me back, and the challenges of like what a woman in STEM brings into being, because often you will be the only one, and to share your experience is so important. And you might often like have a lot more self-doubt and imposter syndrome when you do well. All of those things I experienced to a very high degree. Such huge limiting beliefs when I was often more qualified than my peers, way more qualified in many different things. And it was that I realized that your qualifications don't equal your self-worth, actually, and how do you separate them, and how to build that inherent worth for yourself because you are worthy from the day you were born. You were worthy from the day you were born, and how do we emulate that a lot more into our lives, and not associate our worth with our qualifications and our degrees and what we have achieved in life, but more so with our inherent way of being and seeing life in itself, and just the way we are, the curiosity we have for life. And that is why I'm very protective of my inner child, because I see that person as very innocent and full of curiosity, and the magic still remains in that younger version of me as much as it does now. So, and the worth is still the same. You know, I may have gained more qualifications right now, but I'm still leading with that child. So yeah, that's my story so far, and I am now a STEM ambassador. I also help you with negotiations if you want to get more coaching on how to negotiate your salary, how to negotiate your work terms, how to have a better work-life balance, how to really advocate for yourself, how to get that promotion, how to get that project that you want to lead rather than someone else getting in and you being faced with some mind-numbing tasks, and how to deal with sexual harassment, how to really counteract those issues, and how all of these things I have faced completely, and I know exactly how to deal with them, and I have the solutions because I tried hard to find the solutions for myself and how to deal with them. I hope you enjoyed listening to my story, and I know this video is very long, so I don't know if any of you made it right to the end, but this is my story, and I hope it resonates with you, and I hope that's at least some of it resonates with you. And women in tech, women in STEM, I hope it resonates with you, and do reach out and follow me on my Instagram page so that we can connect. And if you feel like you are alone often and you're thinking about quitting your job, it may be just worth looking at how can you make your current job as better as possible and make the most out of it before you quit. Or if you then decide you don't want to quit because maybe what you're truly fearing is stepping into the higher role, which is what is required if you want to go higher in life. And especially if you want to be an astronaut, you're going to have to face yourself at a deeper level, because then if you get to the selection criteria, if you do go into higher stages of that life, you will be seen completely naked. I mean that metaphorically, of course, but your soul, your mind, the way you do things, everything will be laid out on the table, and it's time that you get to know what will be laid out on that table before it's laid out fully on the table. So if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and do share it with any companies or any women in STEM who are really wanting to know more about it, and or just generally for people in STEM. I don't even want to say women in STEM, it's just I represent that, but it's for people in STEM who may find this very relatable and may help them to pursue their goal of becoming an astronaut. Thank you for listening.